Save me! A sudden scream echoed through the wedding venue as the massive crystal chandelier teetered precariously, plummeting downward. Claire and I were standing in the danger zone almost simultaneously. In that critical moment, my fiancé Ethan unhesitatingly rushed toward Claire, shielding her with his body as they rolled to safety together. Meanwhile, I was solidly struck on the shoulder by the chandelier weighing several hundred pounds. The intense pain caused me to collapse instantly, with blood staining my wedding dress worth 300,000. Ava. My mother-in-law was the first to rush over, her eyes filled with concern. Call an ambulance quickly. Only then did Ethan lift his head from Claire's embrace, looking at me lying in a pool of blood. His face showed no trace of guilt, instead, it carried a hint of impatience. It's just a hit, is it necessary to be so dramatic? Ethan, this is your bride. Ethan's mother said angrily. Mom, look at how frightened Claire is, I couldn't just stand by and watch. Ethan helped Claire up, gently comforting her. It's okay now, I'm here. Claire leaned into his arms, crying pitifully, How go, I was so scared, if it weren't for you. Watching this scene, I suddenly laughed. I laughed until tears came out. This wedding had been prepared for a whole year. From the venue setup to every detail, I had handled everything personally. Even this crystal chandelier was specially ordered from Italy by me. Ironically, it had become a mirror revealing people's true hearts. Ava, how are you? Ethan's mother squatted beside me, anxiously shedding tears. I forced myself to sit up, looking at Ethan who was still comforting Claire, and said coldly, Ethan, our wedding ends here. What do you mean? Ethan frowned. The literal meaning. I picked up the diamond ring worth 500,000 from the ground and threw it directly at his feet. I want to call off the engagement. The entire venue fell silent instantly. Over 300 guests exchanged glances and whispered. Ava, have you been knocked senseless? Ethan's face looked ugly. Just because of that accident, you're making a fuss about calling off the wedding? I sneered, accident? Do you think it was an accident? What else could it be? Then why was Claire at the wedding venue? I asked word by word, your ex-girlfriend appearing at your wedding, and coincidentally standing in the danger zone, that's what you call an accident? Ethan's expression changed slightly. Claire quickly explained, Sister Ava, you've misunderstood, I just came to attend your wedding and bless you both. Bless us? I interrupted her, wearing a white long dress identical to my wedding gown to bless us? Or wearing makeup exactly like mine to bless us? Only then did everyone notice that Claire's attire today was indeed excessive. A white strapless long dress, exquisite makeup, even the hairstyle was strikingly similar to mine. If not for the height difference, from a distance, we looked almost identical. I just thought this outfit was more formal. Claire's voice grew smaller. Formal? I stood up, despite the excruciating pain in my shoulder, but my voice was unusually calm. Wearing white at a wedding venue, are you here to steal my spotlight or my husband? Ava. Ethan finally exploded, that's enough. Claire is my friend, what she wears is her freedom. Friend? Watching him protect Claire, my heart turned completely cold. Yes, friend. I nodded. So when your friend and I were both in danger, you chose to save your friend and let your bride fend for herself. Ethan tried to explain something. No need to explain. I turned to the MC and said, announce the cancellation of the wedding, tell all the guests that due to the groom's sudden change of heart, the wedding cannot proceed. The MC stood stunned, unsure what to do. Ethan's face turned red with anger. Ava, are you crazy? In front of so many people. What's wrong with in front of so many people? I sneered. Isn't it good to let them see the true face of young Master Ethan? After saying that, I took out my phone in front of everyone. Dear guests, I'm very sorry that today's wedding cannot continue. I said loudly. The accident just now made me see some things clearly. Hereby, I, Ava, formally announce the dissolution of my engagement with Ethan. All the banquet expenses today will be borne by me personally, sorry for the inconvenience. After speaking, I dialed my assistant's number. Chris, immediately contact the hotel finance to settle all expenses for today. Additionally, notify the company's legal department to prepare for terminating all collaborations with the Lin Group. Ethan's face instantly turned pale. He finally realized I wasn't joking. The Lin Group's development over the past 2 years had largely relied on collaborations with our song group. If these collaborations were lost, the Lin Group would suffer losses of at least hundreds of millions in profits. Ava, calm down a bit, let's talk when we get back. Ethan tried to salvage the situation. There's nothing to talk about. I walked out without looking back. Ethan, from today onward, we have no further connections. As I reached the door, I suddenly stopped and looked back at Ethan, who was still holding Claire. By the way, I forgot to tell you something. I smiled particularly brightly. Actually, I've known about your relationship for a long time. Today's wedding was just a setup I arranged. Ethan's pupils contracted sharply. What do you mean? The literal meaning. I said indifferently. That chandelier, I had someone tamper with it. I wanted to see who you would choose in a critical moment. Now I've got the answer. So, thank you for showing me with your actions who you love. After saying that, I left the wedding venue without looking back, leaving a shocked Ethan and the astonished guests. In the elevator, I leaned against the wall and finally couldn't help but laugh out loud. Ethan, oh Ethan, did you think I really knew nothing? I discovered your affair with Claire 3 months ago. Today's wedding was indeed a play I carefully orchestrated. But the real show is just beginning. Back home, I immediately changed out of the blood-stained wedding dress and sat at the vanity to remove my makeup. The woman in the mirror had a pale face, her shoulder wrapped in bandages, but her eyes were unusually resolute. The phone rang. It was my best friend Lena. Ava, I heard something happened at the wedding. Where are you now? Lena's voice was full of concern. I'm at home. I said indifferently. Something did happen at the wedding, but it's all resolved. Resolved? I heard you called off the engagement on the spot. Yes. There was silence on the other end for a few seconds, then Lena's excited voice came, well done. I've long disliked that Ethan. You, help me out. Looking at myself in the mirror, compile all the information you know about Claire and give it to me. No problem. Lena agreed without hesitation. But what do you need this for? Since I've decided to tear off the facade, I might as well do it thoroughly. After hanging up, I opened my computer and logged into the company's internal system. As the executive president of the Song Group, I had access to all collaboration projects with the Lin Group. 17 projects, totaling $800 million in value. The largest one was a commercial real estate development project worth $300 million. The Lin Group had invested almost all its liquid funds. If this project was interrupted, the Lin Group would face a cash flow crisis. I curled my lips and began drafting the termination letter. Ethan, since you chose Claire, you must pay the price for your choice. At that moment, the doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole. It was Ethan. He stood alone outside, his face terribly grim. I opened the door and asked indifferently, what is it? Ava, are you really going to do this? Ethan got straight to the point. Cancel all collaborations? What's the problem? I stepped aside to let him in. We've called off the engagement. Isn't it strange to continue collaborating? You know what consequences this will bring to the Lin Group. Ethan suppressed his anger. That's none of my concern. I poured a glass of water and handed it to him. Business is like a battlefield, losing partners is normal. Ethan didn't take the water but stared straight at me. Let's talk. Talk about what? I admit I didn't handle today's matter properly. Ethan took a deep breath. But you can't just because of this small matter. Small matter? I interrupted him. Ethan, do you think what happened today is a small matter? Then let me ask you, if Claire was the one injured today and I was unharmed, would you think it's a small matter? Ethan fell silent. I continued, if Claire was the one lying in a pool of blood today, would you still be sitting here calmly negotiating with me? Ava, things aren't what you think. Not what I think. I sneered. Then what is it? Tell me, what exactly is your relationship with Claire? Ethan's expression changed, but he still stubbornly said, we're friends. Friends? I took out a folder from the drawer. Are you sure it's just friends? The moment Ethan saw the folder, his face turned pale. I slowly opened the folder, placing photos one by one on the table. The photos showed Ethan and Claire in intimate contact in various settings, eating together, watching movies, shopping, even entering and exiting hotels. These photos were taken by a private investigator I hired. I said calmly. Starting 3 months ago, your meetings became more frequent. Ava, listen to my explanation. Explain what? I picked up the last photo. Explain why you bought her a necklace worth $200,000. Or explain why you spent the night at her apartment. In the photo, Ethan and Claire were selecting a necklace in a jewelry store. Ethan personally put it on Claire, their actions intimate beyond ordinary friends. Ethan was completely speechless. Ethan, I'm not a fool. I put the photos back into the folder. If I hadn't taken the initiative to call off the engagement today, were you planning to continue this relationship with her after marriage? Did you think I would silently endure my husband's betrayal like the heroines in those Korean dramas, pretending to know nothing? Ethan lowered his head, not daring to look into my eyes. Unfortunately, I'm not that kind of person. I stood up. Since you love Claire, go pursue her, don't use marriage to hold me hostage. Ava, we've known each other for 10 years. Ethan tried to salvage. Precisely because we've known each other for 10 years, I'm even more disappointed. I looked at him coldly. 10 years of feelings couldn't withstand her 3 months of companionship. Ethan wanted to say something but ultimately remained silent. You can leave now. I pointed to the door. Remember to take your things, don't come back in the future. Ethan hesitated for a moment but finally stood up and walked out. At the door, he suddenly turned back. Ava, if we don't terminate the collaborations, I can cut ties with Claire. Hearing this, I laughed. I laughed hysterically. Ethan, do you know? This sentence of yours has made me see your true nature completely. I wiped the tears from the corners of my eyes. In your heart, Claire and I are just chips to exchange for benefits. As long as it preserves the Lin Group's interests, you can even give up your so-called true love. What use do I have for such a man? Ethan's face became extremely ugly. Get out. I unceremoniously issued the eviction order. Remember, from today onward, we're completely over. Ethan glared at me fiercely but ultimately left. The moment the door closed, I leaned against it and let out a long sigh of relief. It was finally over. This relationship that had pained me for 3 months was completely ended. Although the process was somewhat dramatic, the result was exactly what I wanted. Now, it was time to start my counterattack. Early the next morning, I received a call from Ethan's mother. Ava, yesterday's incident was a misunderstanding. How actually? Ethan's mother's voice trembled. Auntie, you don't need to explain for him. I interrupted her. My decision won't change. Ava, think carefully, this benefits no one. It benefits me. I said calmly. At least I don't have to marry a man who has someone else in his heart. Ethan's mother was silent for a long time, finally sighing, if you insist on doing this, Auntie won't stop you. But about the business collaborations. Auntie, forgive my bluntness, you should know the Lin Group's current situation better than I do. I said unceremoniously. Canceling $800 million in collaborations, how long can the Lin Group's cash flow hold? Ava, you're trying to drive the Lin Group to death. Ethan's mother's voice carried a sob. It's not me forcing the Lin Group to death, it's the path Ethan chose himself. I said indifferently. Since he chose love, he must bear the corresponding consequences. After hanging up, I immediately convened a senior management meeting. In the conference room, heads of over a dozen departments were all present. Everyone, regarding the collaborations with the Lin Group, I have a decision to announce. I got straight to the point. From today onward, terminate all collaboration projects with the Lin Group. Everyone exchanged glances. The finance director asked first, President Ava, doing this will cause us to lose considerable penalties. I'll bear the penalties personally, I said nonchalantly. Additionally, notify the legal department to draft the relevant documents, ensuring the termination process is legal and compliant. The marketing director hesitantly asked, President Ava, isn't this too? Too what? I looked at him. Too impulsive. After all, the Lin Group is our important partner. Important partner? I sneered. A company without basic integrity, what qualification does it have to be our partner? But. No buts. I tapped the table. This is my decision, just execute it. After the meeting, I returned to my office. Lena was already waiting. The information is all here. Lena handed me a thick folder. I've investigated Claire's background thoroughly. I took the folder and quickly flipped through it. Claire, 25 years old, marketing manager at the Lin Group. Parents deceased early, raised by grandmother. Excelled in university, received multiple scholarships. Entered the Lin Group directly after graduation. Outstanding workability, highly appreciated by Ethan. It looked like an inspirational story, but continuing further, it got interesting. When she first joined the Lin Group, her salary was only $8,000. Lena explained beside me. But now, she owns 2 houses, a BMW, and various luxury items. Where did this money come from? On the surface, from performance commissions, but a careful calculation doesn't add up. Lena pointed to the financial analysis in the documents. Her consumption level over the past 2 years requires at least $1 million annual income. And the Lin Group's salary plus commissions for her amount to at most $300,000. I nodded and continued flipping. The most interesting is this. Lena took out a bank statement. In December last year, her account suddenly had an extra $500,000. The transferor was a company called Lin Investment. Lin Investment? Ethan's personal investment company. Lena explained. That means this $500,000 was given by Ethan. I carefully checked the date. December last year was exactly when Ethan and I confirmed our wedding date. Interesting. Discussing wedding matters with me on one hand, transferring $500,000 to another woman on the other. Ethan's scumbag nature was fully exposed. Is there more? I asked. Of course. Lena smiled mysteriously. The best part is yet to come. She took out a hospital examination report and handed it to me. I glanced at it, my pupils contracting sharply. Gynecology examination report, patient, Claire. Examination result, pregnant for 6 weeks. Examination date, 1 month ago. She's pregnant? I said incredulously. And based on the timing, it coincides with the period of their frequent meetings. Lena said coldly. That means, while you were preparing for the wedding, they already had a child. I gripped the report tightly, my knuckles turning white from the force. Ethan, Claire, you two are really something. Preparing the wedding on one side, making a baby on the other, what did you take me for? Ava, are you okay? Lena looked at me worriedly. I'm fine. I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself. Very fine. What do you plan to do? Looking at the examination report in my hand, the corners of my mouth slowly curled into a cold arc. Since they're so eager to be together, of course I'll fulfill their wish. What do you mean? What do you think the Lin Group's shareholders' reaction would be if they knew their young master got an employee pregnant out of wedlock? Lena's eyes lit up. You want to make a copy of this report, along with other evidence, and anonymously send it to several major shareholders of the Lynn Group. I said coldly. Especially Ethan's second uncle, he's always wanted to seize control of the Lynn Group. Brilliant. Lena clapped in approval. This way, Ethan not only faces a cash flow crisis but also internal power struggles. This isn't enough. I stood up and walked to the floor-to-ceiling window. Since Claire likes stealing other people's men so much, I'll let her taste what it's like to have something stolen from her. What other plans do you have? I turned around, looking at Lena. Help me arrange a meeting with Claire, say I want to talk to her. You want to see her? Of course. I smiled particularly brightly. Since she wants Ethan so badly, I should personally bless her, right? Lena looked at my smile and couldn't help shivering. Having known me for so many years, she knew well what this smile meant. Claire, your good days are over. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I arrived punctually at the agreed coffee shop. Claire was already waiting, looking somewhat nervous. She had changed into a light-colored dress, with exquisite makeup, but the dark circles under her eyes revealed her recent anxiety. Sister Ava. She greeted initiatively, her voice trembling. Sit down. I said indifferently. Order what you want to drink yourself. Claire hesitated and ordered a glass of lemon water. I observed her movements, noticing her subconsciously protecting her lower abdomen. It seemed Lena's information was correct, she was indeed pregnant. What do you want with me? Claire asked tentatively. Nothing major. I elegantly stirred my coffee. Just want to congratulate you. Congratulate me? Congratulate you on finally getting Ethan as you wished. I looked up at her. Although the process was somewhat dishonorable, the result is quite fulfilling, isn't it? Claire's expression changed. Sister Ava, you've misunderstood, how Gu and I are just. Just what? I interrupted her. Just ordinary friends? Or just work relations? Claire, at this point, are you still pretending? I took out the examination report from my bag and gently placed it on the table. The instant Claire saw the report, her face turned pale. How do you have? Did you think what you did was very secretive? I sneered. Claire, you underestimate me too much. Claire gripped the cup tightly, her hands trembling. From the moment Ethan started contacting you, I had people watching you. I said slowly. Every meeting, every intimate contact, I know it all clearly. Then why didn't you expose us earlier? Claire suddenly looked up, her eyes filled with despair. Because I wanted to see how far you could act. I said casually. I didn't expect you to be so bold as to even have a child. Claire lowered her head, tears dripping onto the table. But now it's good, it saves me from wasting time and energy on a fake wedding. I stood up. I should thank you for letting me see the truth in time. Sister Ava, I really didn't mean to. Claire sobbed. Didn't mean to? I scoffed. Was the pregnancy unintentional too? Claire was completely speechless. Forget it, I won't pursue past matters. I picked up my bag to leave. Now Ethan is yours, cherish him well. Wait. Claire suddenly called me. Sister Ava, you won't let us off, right? I turned back to look at her, somewhat surprised. Why do you say that? Yesterday, the Lynn Group's stock price fell 15%, and today there are rumors of internal problems. Claire stared at me intently. These are all you're doing, right? What do you think? I neither admitted nor denied. Sister Ava, I beg you, let Helga go. Claire suddenly stood up. It's me who wronged you, if you want revenge, take it on me alone. Let him go? I found it somewhat amusing. Claire, have you misunderstood something? I haven't. Claire said agitatedly. You're revenging us. So what? I looked at her coldly. You betrayed me, can't I revenge? But what? But because you're pregnant with his child, I should generously forgive you? My voice became sharp. Claire, your logic is truly peculiar. Claire was left speechless by my words. Do you know? Yesterday at the wedding venue, when I saw Ethan unhesitatingly choose to save you, I understood a principle. I sat down again, looking at her terrified eyes. In this world, no one will love you unconditionally, including parents, including lovers. Everyone makes choices for their own interests, some choose more covertly, some more directly. Ethan chose you, I chose revenge, that's fair, isn't it? Claire trembled, obviously frightened by my words. But rest assured, I won't harm your child. I picked up my coffee, slowly savoring it. After all, that's an innocent life. But for you too. I looked into her eyes. That's hard to say. After saying that, I stood up, left a 100 yuan bill on the table, and walked away without looking back. Claire's crying came from behind, but I didn't turn back. Sympathy, I had used it all up at yesterday's wedding venue. Now, I only wanted those who betrayed me to pay the due price. Walking out of the coffee shop, I dialed a number. Attorney Chen, it's Ava. Hello, President Ava. Help me draft a lawsuit, I want to sue Ethan and Claire. Sue them for what? Compensation for mental damages and breach of contract. I said coldly. Write the amount as 50 million. 50 million? President Ava, isn't this amount too? No. I interrupted him. My reputation and mental loss are worth this price. Okay, I'll arrange it immediately. After hanging up, I looked up at the sky. The sun was nice, and the breeze was comfortable. Such good weather was perfect for starting a thorough revenge. Ethan, Claire, the game has just begun. The next morning, I was handling documents in the office when Secretary Lily rushed in. President Ava, bad news, many reporters are downstairs. I put down the documents, somewhat surprised. Reporters? What for? It seems for you and President Lin's matter. Lily said nervously. I walked to the floor-to-ceiling window and looked down. Indeed, over a dozen reporters with cameras were waiting below. Interesting. The news spread so fast, it seems someone deliberately leaked it. Have security stop them, don't allow entry into the building. I calmly instructed. Also, notify the PR department to prepare a response plan. Yes. Lily turned to leave. Wait. I called her. Notify all department heads, meeting in half an hour. After Lily left, my phone rang, it was an unknown number. Ava, you're very smug, aren't you? Ethan's angry voice came from the receiver. Ethan? I was somewhat surprised. You changed your number? Stop pretending. Ethan roared. The person who leaked my and Claire's affair to the media is you. Leaked to the media? I really didn't know about this. What do you mean? You're still pretending. This morning, all financial media are reporting that I cheated during marriage and got an employee pregnant out of wedlock. I was stunned for a moment, then couldn't help laughing. What are you laughing at? Ethan became even angrier. I'm laughing at your improper wording. I wiped the tears from my eyes. First, we weren't married yet, so no marital infidelity. Second, Claire's pregnancy is indeed a fact. As for leaking to the media, I thought. It really wasn't me. Impossible. Who else knows these things besides you? Ethan, have you forgotten something? I sneered. The Lin group internally isn't monolithic, right? The other end suddenly went quiet. Think, who else wants to see you embarrassed? I reminded him. After a moment, Ethan's voice became hoarse. You mean? Second uncle? Smart. I said approvingly. How much has the Lin Group stock fallen these 2 days? What's Chairman Lin's mood now? Ethan didn't answer, but I could hear his heavy breathing. Now you know fear? I mocked. Why didn't you think of the consequences when having an affair with Claire? Ava, I warn you, don't go too far. Ethan was furious with shame. Too far? My voice turned icy. Ethan, even now you think I'm the one going too far? You betrayed me, made me lose all face at the wedding venue, and now you say I'm too far? Forget it, I can't be bothered arguing with you. I glanced at my watch. Meeting time, I'm hanging up. Wait. Ethan hurriedly called me. Ava, can we talk? Talk about what? About the collaborations. Ethan's tone became earnest. The Lin Group is indeed facing difficulties now, if you're willing to resume collaborations. Not willing. I refused without hesitation. Ava, please, even for the sake of our 10 years of feelings. 10 years of feelings? I sneered. Ethan, you destroyed these 10 years of feelings yourself, not me. If you really cared about these 10 years, you wouldn't entangle with Claire while we were preparing to marry. Even less would you choose to save her instead of me at the wedding venue. Ethan fell completely silent. So, don't use feelings to hold me hostage anymore. I said coldly. That trick doesn't work on me. After saying that, I hung up directly. Entering the conference room, all department heads were present. I suppose everyone knows the situation outside. I got straight to the point. Any thoughts? Speak up. The PR manager spoke first. President Ava, the online public opinion is very unfavorable to us now, saying we terminated collaborations due to personal grudges. What's unfavorable? I countered. Can't we choose our partners? But this will affect the company's image. Affect what image? I tapped the table. The Song Group never collaborates with companies lacking moral integrity, isn't that normal? The finance director said worriedly, President Ava, although we haven't breached the contract, doing this will indeed make other partners doubtful of us. Doubtful of what? Doubtful that we have principles? I sneered. If someone doubts us because of this, it shows they have issues themselves. Such partners, better without. Everyone exchanged glances, obviously not expecting my attitude to be so resolute. Any other questions? I scanned the room. The legal manager hesitantly said, President Ava, about suing Ethan and Claire. What? The $50 million compensation amount, the court may not support. Then sue to the end. I said indifferently. Even if I only get $10 million in the end, I want them to know the cost of betrayal. But this will consume a lot of time and energy. It doesn't matter. I stood up. Some things aren't for money, but to vent anger. The Song Group's reputation isn't something anyone can trample on. Since Ethan chose betrayal, he must bear the consequences. This is my attitude, and the Song Group's attitude. After saying that, I looked at everyone present. If anyone has objections to my decision, speak now. The conference room was silent. Since no objections, do as I said. I picked up the documents. Meeting adjourned. Walking out, I received Lena's call. Ava, have you seen the news? Lena said excitedly. What news? Infighting in the Lin Group. Ethan's second uncle held a press conference, saying to reconsider Ethan's heir qualification. I raised my eyebrows. So fast? The Lin Group stock fell another 10 points today. Several major shareholders can't sit still. Lena said gloatingly. Ethan is overwhelmed now, probably can't even care for Claire. I thought and asked, any movement from Claire? She didn't go to work today, said to be on sick leave. Sick leave? Probably scared. Lena analyzed. Now the whole company knows she's pregnant with Ethan's child, pointing fingers, anyone can't bear it. I nodded, already having the next plan in mind. Since Claire chose to escape, I'll make her have nowhere to escape. This game has just begun. That evening, I received an unexpected visitor. The Lin Group's second shareholder, Ethan's second uncle Victor. Victor was a shrewd businessman, in his 50s, well-maintained, in a fitting suit, looking very dignified. President Ava, sorry for the abrupt visit. Victor said politely. President Lin, please sit. I invited him to sit. What to drink? Tea is fine. I had the assistant brew a pot of good tea, then sat opposite Victor. What brings President Lin here today? I got straight to the point. Smart people speak straightforwardly. Victor smiled. I'm here to discuss a business deal with President Ava. What deal? Regarding the equity transfer of the Lin Group. Victor stated the purpose directly. I raised my eyebrows. What does President Lin mean? President Ava should know the Lin Group's current difficult situation. Victor analyzed. Tight cash flow, plummeting stock price, intensified internal conflicts. What does this have to do with me? Of course it does. Victor smiled meaningfully. If President Ava is willing to invest in the Lin Group, not only can it solve the funding issues, but also gain control of the Lin Group. I understood his intention. Victor wanted to use me to seize control of the Lin Group. President Lin's proposal is interesting. I picked up the teacup. But why should I invest in a company with chaotic management? Because of the Lin Group's potential. Victor said confidently. As long as the management is changed, the Lin Group can quickly rise again. Change management? I pretended not to understand. To whom? Of course, to more capable people. Victor hinted. I put down the teacup, looking at him with a half-smile. Does President Lin think he's more capable than Ethan? It's not what I think, it's a fact. Victor's tone became serious. President Ava should be clear about Ethan's performance these years. If not relying on the Song Group's collaborations, the Lin Group couldn't have today's scale. Now, for a woman, he's made the company a mess. What qualification does such a person have to be the heir? I had to admit Victor made sense. Ethan indeed had no outstanding abilities these years, most achievements relied on our Song Group's collaborations. Then how much does President Lin want me to invest? I asked tentatively. 500 million. Victor held up 5 fingers. In exchange for 40% of the Lin Group's shares. I calculated, this price was indeed tempting. Based on the Lin Group's current market value, 40% shares were worth at least 800 million. The terms are tempting. I nodded. But I need to consider. Of course, such a large investment requires careful consideration from President Ava. Victor stood up. But I hope President Ava can give me a reply soon. Why so urgent? Because the Lin Group's situation is deteriorating daily. Victor smiled bitterly. If delayed further, I'm afraid even 40% shares won't be worth 500 million. After seeing Victor off, I fell into thought. Honestly, this proposal was very attractive. If I could take control of the Lin Group, not only could I revenge Ethan, but also gain huge economic benefits. But do I really want to do this? While thinking, the doorbell rang again. This time it was Claire. She looked very haggard, eyes red and swollen, obviously having cried many times. Sister Ava, can I come in? Her voice was weak. I stepped aside to let her in. Claire sat on the sofa, tightly holding her bag, looking very nervous. What do you want? I asked. I want to apologize to you. Claire lowered her head. Sorry, I was wrong. Apologize? I was somewhat surprised. Why suddenly apologize? Because I finally understand how excessive what I did was. Claire looked up, her eyes full of regret. I stole your boyfriend and appeared at your wedding, these are all my faults. I didn't speak, waiting for her to continue. I know saying sorry is useless now, but I still want to say it. Claire choked. Sorry, Sister Ava, I really know I was wrong. No, you were wrong? I sneered. Then how do you plan to make up for it? I'm willing to leave Ethan, leave this city. Claire said firmly. As long as you can forgive me. Leave? I raised my eyebrows. Then what about the child in your belly? Claire subconsciously touched her abdomen, a flash of pain in her eyes. I'll handle it. Handle? I pressed. What do you mean? Claire was silent for a long time, finally saying with difficulty, I'll abort the child. Hearing this, I was stunned. Although I hated Claire, hearing she would abort the child made my feelings complex. Why? I asked. That's you and Ethan's child. Because this child came at the wrong time. Claire smiled bitterly. Its existence will only cause more people pain. Including yourself? Including myself. Claire nodded. Sister Ava, I now understand that some mistakes, once made, can never be undone. I don't expect you to forgive me, I just hope you can let Ethan go. Let Ethan go? I sneered. Claire, have you misunderstood something? I haven't. Claire looked at me seriously. I know you're revenging us, the Lynn Group's current plight is all related to you. So what? Ethan is innocent. Claire defended Ethan. It was me who seduced him, he was just momentarily confused. Hearing this, I couldn't help laughing. Claire, you're truly great. I clapped. Even now, making excuses for Ethan. I'm telling the truth. Truth? I interrupted her. Then let me ask you, who initiatively gave you that 500,000? Claire's expression changed. Who bought those luxury items for you? I continued pressing. Who paid the down payment for that apartment? Claire was completely speechless. Claire, don't make yourself sound so innocent. I said coldly. You two are birds of a feather, neither can shirk responsibility. Claire lowered her head, tears falling again. However, your words today reminded me. I stood up. Since you love Ethan so much, I'll fulfill you both. What do you mean? Claire was puzzled. You'll know soon. I walked to the door. You can leave now. Sister Ava. Claire wanted to say something. Go. I unceremoniously ordered. Don't make me call security. Claire ultimately left. Watching her desolate back, I felt no sympathy. If she really loved Ethan, she should bear the consequences of her choice. Since she chose to be the mistress, she should prepare to be despised. Regret now? Too late. I picked up my phone and dialed Victor. President Lynn, I've considered. Oh? What's President Ava's decision? I agree to invest in the Lynn Group. I said coldly. But the terms need to change. What terms? 300 million for 40% shares. This? Victor hesitated. President Lynn, this is my bottom line. I said uncompromisingly. Take it or leave it. The other end was silent for a moment, then Victor's voice came, okay, I agree. After hanging up, I looked at the night view outside the window, the corners of my mouth curling into a cold arc. Ethan, Claire, the love you want, I'll personally fulfill. But the price is losing everything. 3 days later, the Song Group officially announced an investment of 300 million in the Lynn Group, obtaining 40% shares. At the same time, Victor was appointed as the new president of the Lynn Group, and Ethan was demoted to vice president. This news shocked the entire business world. No one expected the Song Group to acquire the Lynn Group's shares at this time. Even less expected was such drastic changes in the Lynn Group's power. I sat in the office, looking at the news reports on the computer screen, feeling particularly pleased. President Ava, Ethan is here. Secretary Lily knocked and reported. Let him in. Soon, Ethan pushed the door in. He looked much more haggard, his eyes full of fatigue and anger. Ava, you're too ruthless. Ethan gnashed his teeth. Ruthless? I put down the documents. I think I've been very merciful. Merciful? You seized control of the Lynn Group and call it merciful? First, I didn't seize, your second uncle initiatively sought collaboration with me. I corrected. Second, I invested 300 million, saving the Lynn Group, you should thank me. You. Ethan was so angry he couldn't speak. What? Can't say thanks? I mocked. Then forget it, I don't need your thanks. Ethan took a deep breath, trying to calm himself. What exactly do you want? What I want is simple, I said, smiling. I want to see, having lost everything, what qualification you have to love Claire. You're crazy, Ethan roared. To revenge me, you're willing such a huge cost. Cost? I raised my eyebrows. Ethan, have you misunderstood? Investing in the Lin Group isn't a cost, it's an investment. 40% shares, at market price worth at least $800 million, I got it for $300 million. This deal, I profited big. Ethan's face became even uglier. So, I should thank you. I stood up, walked to him. If not for your betrayal, how would I have such a good investment opportunity? Ava. Ethan, now you understand, right? I looked at him coldly. In this world, money can buy everything, including love. Do you think Claire really loves you? She loves only your money, your status. Now you have nothing, see if she'll continue to love you. A flash of pain in Ethan's eyes, but he stubbornly said, Claire isn't that kind of person. Not that kind? I couldn't help laughing. Then why accept your money? Why live in the house you bought? If she really loves you, would she care about these external things? Ethan was silent. Forget it, saying this is useless. I returned to my seat. You'll see the truth soon. What do you mean? Nothing. I picked up the documents. If nothing else, you can leave. I'm busy. Ethan wanted to say something but ultimately turned and left. After he left, I picked up my phone and dialed Lena. You, help me. What help? Find a few people to go downstairs to Claire's company and spread some messages. What messages? Say Ethan has been demoted, has no real power, and the child in Claire's belly is destined to be illegitimate. Also, find a few media to report on the Lin Group's internal power struggle, emphasizing Claire's matter. Lena laughed on the phone. Understood, I'll arrange it now. After hanging up, I continued working. But my mood was much better than before. Revenge indeed uplifts the spirit. In the afternoon, I received unexpected news. Claire resigned. In the company's internal email, she wrote, due to personal reasons, decided to leave the Lin Group, thanking the company for nurturing and colleagues for help. The email was short, but the information revealed was clear. She couldn't hold on. Imagining Claire's embarrassed appearance packing and leaving the company, I felt a surge of satisfaction. But this wasn't enough. The real show was still to come. In the evening, I received Victor's call. President Ava, good news for you. Victor's voice was excited. What good news? Ethan submitted his resignation today. I was stunned. Resign? Why? Probably can't bear the current situation. Victor analyzed. Demoted from president to vice president, a big blow to him. Plus that woman named Claire resigned, he probably feels no face to stay. I nodded. This result was indeed expected. With Ethan's personality, it's indeed hard to accept such a drop. How do you plan to handle it? I asked. Of course approve. Victor said without hesitation. His leaving is good for everyone. But I have a proposal. What proposal? Ethan still holds 15% shares, if President Ava is interested. I understood his meaning. If I could acquire Ethan's shares, my voice in the Lin Group would be greater. The price? I asked. At market price, about $100 million. Victor said. But considering the current situation, I think $80 million can take it. Good, you go talk to him. I agreed. But one condition. What condition? I want to sign the contract with him personally. I said coldly. I want to see his expression when handing over the shares. Victor laughed on the phone. President Ava is really interesting. Deal. After hanging up, I leaned back in the chair, imagining tomorrow's signing scene. Ethan, you must want to know what it feels like to lose everything, right? You'll know soon. And I'll make you remember this feeling forever. This is the cost of betraying me. The next afternoon, the equity transfer signing ceremony was held in the song group's conference room. Ethan arrived early, sitting there silently, his face terribly grim. He had become much thinner, with stubbly beard, completely lacking his previous vigor. When I entered the conference room, he looked up at me, his eyes full of complex emotions. "Mr. Ethan, thanks for coming." I greeted politely, as if nothing had happened. Ethan didn't respond, just looked at me coldly. "Then let's begin." The lawyer placed the contract on the table. "This is the equity transfer agreement, please confirm the content." I carefully read the contract, no issues. "Mr. Ethan, do you see any problems?" I asked. Ethan picked up the contract, quickly flipped through, then slammed it on the table. "Ava, you won." His voice was hoarse. "My shares are all yours, are you satisfied now?" "Satisfied?" I raised my eyebrows. "Why satisfied? This is just a normal business transaction." "Normal business transaction?" Ethan sneered. "Do you think I'll believe that?" "Doesn't matter if you believe, the important thing is to sign the contract." I shrugged. Ethan stared at me for a long time, ultimately picked up the pen, and signed his name on the contract. The handwriting trembled, obviously his heart wasn't calm. I also signed the contract, then had the lawyer handle the procedures. "From today, I hold 55% of the Lynn Group's shares, becoming the largest shareholder," I announced. Ethan closed his eyes, seemingly unwilling to face this reality. "Mr. Ethan, per the contract, the equity transfer payment will be received within 3 working days," the lawyer reminded. "Additionally, you need to cooperate with shareholder change procedures." Ethan nodded but didn't speak. After the lawyer packed the documents and left, only Ethan and I remained in the conference room. "Now you can speak your true feelings." I leaned back in the chair. "How does it feel to lose everything?" Ethan opened his eyes, flames of anger burning. "Ava, do you think revenging me this way will make you happy?" "Of course." I didn't hide. "Seeing the one who betrayed me lose everything, I am indeed happy." "You've changed," Ethan said painfully. "The previous you wasn't like this." "The previous me indeed wasn't." I nodded. "The previous me was pure and kind, believed in love, believed in promises. But that me was killed by your own hands. Now, I only believe in money and power." Ethan was silent. "Do you know?" I continued. "In a sense, I should thank you." "Thank me?" "Yes, thank you for making me see reality." I stood up. "In this world, only money and power are reliable, others are illusions. Love can betray, friendship can change, only interests are eternal. You taught me this principle, how can I not thank you?" Ethan's face became paler. "Okay, chat ends here." I picked up my bag. "I have work to handle." "Wait." Ethan called me. "What about Claire?" "Claire?" I turned to look at him. "What's with her? How is she now?" Ethan asked worriedly. "You don't know?" I was somewhat surprised. "Aren't you together?" Ethan shook his head. "Since she resigned, I can't contact her." I couldn't help laughing. So Claire really abandoned Ethan. Seems my judgment of human nature is accurate. "She probably thinks you're useless now," I said coldly. "After all, you have nothing now, no value to her." "Impossible." Ethan stood up agitatedly. "Claire isn't that kind of person." "Not that kind?" I mocked. "Then why doesn't she answer your calls? Why move away? She must have some difficulties." "Difficulties?" I interrupted him. "Ethan, haven't you seen reality yet? Claire never truly loved you, she loved only your money and status. Now you have nothing, of course she'll seek other ways." Ethan's face turned pale, his body swaying. If you don't believe, you can investigate yourself. I sneered. See what she's doing now. After saying that, I left the conference room without looking back. Walking out of the company building, I received Lena's call. Ava, news for you. Lena's voice was somewhat excited. What news? Claire went to the hospital yesterday. Hospital? I frowned. For what? Abortion. Lena said simply. She aborted the child. I was stunned, didn't expect Claire to really do it. And? I asked. Today she moved out of the apartment Ethan bought her, seems to leave the city. Leave? Where to? Don't know, but heard she's resigned all jobs, like to disappear completely. I pondered for a moment, feelings complex. Although I hated Claire, hearing the abortion news, I felt a trace of reluctance. Forget it, let her go. I finally said. Anyway, she won't dare come back. You won't pursue her anymore? Lena was surprised. No need. I looked at the sky. Losing Ethan and the child is already the biggest punishment for her. Moreover, my goal is achieved. After hanging up, I recalled Ethan's expression earlier. When he knew Claire abandoned him, that despair and pain was harder for him to bear than losing the company. This is the result I wanted. Make him lose everything, including what he thought was true love. Now, he finally understands the cost of betrayal. A month later, I was handling the Lynn Group's reorganization in the office when Secretary Lily rushed in. President Ava, something happened. Her face looked bad. What? I put down the documents. Ethan, he had a car accident. I was stunned. Car accident? Serious? Very serious, now in rescue at the hospital. Lily said nervously. President Victor asked me to notify you, ask if you want to go see. I was silent for a moment, finally nodded. Prepare the car, we're going to the hospital. When arriving at the hospital, many people gathered outside the ICU. Victor, Ethan's mother, and some Lynn Group executives were there. When Ethan's mother saw me, complex emotions flashed in her eyes. Ava, you're here. Her voice was hoarse, obviously having cried. Auntie, how is Ethan? I asked. Still in rescue. Ethan's mother wiped tears. Doctor said the situation isn't optimistic. I looked at the ICU door, feelings complex. How did the accident happen? I asked Victor. Drunk driving. Victor said simply. Last night, he drove alone and crashed into the guardrail. Drunk driving? I frowned. Why did he drink so much? Victor glanced at Ethan's mother, hesitantly said, probably because. Claire's matter. Claire? I pretended not to know. What's with her? She called Ethan yesterday, saying to completely leave this city, never come back. Ethan's mother choked. After How took the call, he started drinking, no matter how he wouldn't listen. Then. I understood. Ethan drank because of Claire's farewell call. Perhaps this wasn't an accident at all, but suicide. What did the doctor say? I asked. Intracranial hemorrhage, multiple fractures. Victor's face was grave. Even if rescued, there may be sequelae. At that moment, the ICU door opened, a doctor came out. Patient's family here? The doctor asked. Here. Ethan's mother hurriedly stood. Doctor, how is my son? Rescued, but the situation isn't good. The doctor removed the mask. The patient had heavy intracranial bleeding, surgery was successful, but there may be consciousness disorders. What does that mean? Ethan's mother didn't understand. It means he might become a vegetable. The doctor stated the worst possibility directly. Hearing this, Ethan's mother fainted on the spot. People around hurriedly supported her. For a time, outside the ICU was chaotic. I stood aside, watching this, feelings mixed. Although I hated Ethan, seeing the possibility of him becoming a vegetable, I felt a trace of reluctance. After all, we've known each other 10 years, once loved. President Ava, are you okay? Victor came over, asked concernedly. I'm fine. I shook my head. How is Auntie? Already sent to emergency, should be no big issue. Victor sighed. Just too stimulated. I nodded, then asked, follow-up treatment costs. This President Ava doesn't need to worry, the Lynn Group will handle. Victor said quickly. I didn't mean that. I explained. I mean, if the costs aren't enough, I can help. Victor looked at me surprised. President Ava, you. After all, we've known each other many years. I said indifferently. And now I'm also a shareholder of the Lynn Group, I can't stand by when he's in trouble. Although I said that, I knew clearly in my heart that my willingness to help was more due to guilt. If I hadn't revenged him so ruthlessly, perhaps he wouldn't have reached this step. But is regret useful? Things have happened, no amount of regret can change reality. After staying at the hospital for a few hours, confirming Ethan was temporarily out of life danger, I left. Back home, I sat on the sofa, recalling many past events. Ethan and I knew each other from university, walked through 10 years together. Although he betrayed me in the end, those beautiful memories were still real. Now he's like this, saying I'm not sad is false. But I won't regret my choice. He betrayed me, must bear the consequences. Just this consequence is much more serious than I expected. While lost in thought, the doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole, it was a strange woman. She looked very nervous, pacing outside. I opened the door, asked, "Who are you looking for?" "Are you Ava?" the woman asked nervously. "Yes, who are you?" "I'm Claire's friend." She introduced. "Claire asked me to find you." "Claire?" I frowned. What does she want? "She wants to see you," the woman said. "Has something important to tell you." "What?" "About Ethan." The woman hesitated. She said, "Some truths you should know." "Truths? What truths?" I thought, finally nodded in agreement. "Okay, tell her, tomorrow afternoon 3 o'clock, still that coffee shop last time." "Thank you." The woman relieved. "Claire will be grateful." After the woman left, I fell into thought. What truth does Claire want to tell me? Is there inside story I don't know? The next afternoon, I arrived punctually at the coffee shop. Claire was already waiting, looking even more haggard, as if a gust could blow her away. "Sister Ava." She greeted initiatively, voice weak. After sitting, I asked directly, "What truth do you want to tell me?" Claire took a deep breath, then said, "About me and Ethan, some parts one lied before." "Lied?" I raised my eyebrows. "Our relationship didn't start 3 months ago." Claire lowered her head. "But started 2 years ago." I was stunned. 2 years ago? "Yes." Claire nodded. "At that time, you and Ethan were in passionate love. I just entered the Lynn Group. He pursued me initiatively, said he had no feelings for you, just because of the two companies' collaboration, inconvenient to break up." Hearing this, I felt dizzy. 2 years? They actually maintained a relationship for 2 years? Doesn't that mean he had already betrayed me by the time we got engaged? "Continue," I said, suppressing my anger forcefully. "At first, I refused because I knew he had a girlfriend," Claire continued, "but he was very persistent, constantly pursuing me, buying me gifts, and taking me on trips. Gradually, I fell for him." "The dates on those photos, did you deliberately mess them up?" I asked. "Yes," Claire admitted, "I knew you were investigating us, so I intentionally made you think we had only been in contact for 3 months." "What was the purpose?" "Ethan said that this way, you wouldn't suspect anything before the engagement," Claire said with a bitter smile. "He thought that if you knew we had been together for 2 years, you would be even more furious." I clenched my fists, my knuckles cracking. Ethan, you're really something. He had already betrayed me for 2 years by the time we got engaged. What else? I asked coldly. The accident at the wedding was truly an accident, Claire said seriously. We didn't arrange it on purpose. The chandelier falling wasn't part of our plan. I know, I nodded. The chandelier was indeed tampered with on my orders. Claire was somewhat surprised. You really? I wanted to test who Ethan would choose in a critical moment, I sneered. Now it seems my test was very successful. Sister Ava, listen to me finish, Claire said hurriedly. On the wedding day, the reason Ethan chose to save me was because. Because of what? Because I was bleeding at the time. Claire rolled up her sleeve, revealing a scar on her arm. When the chandelier fell, I was cut by the fragments and bled a lot. Ethan saw me injured and instinctively rushed over to save me. If it had been you who was injured, he would have saved you without hesitation as well. I examined the scar on her arm closely. It was indeed fresh, probably from that day. What are you trying to say? I asked. I want to say that Ethan still has you in his heart, Claire said seriously. The reason he was with me was mostly because of loneliness and emptiness. The person he truly loves is still you. Hearing this, I couldn't help but laugh. Claire, do you think I would believe these words? It's true. Claire said excitedly. Ethan often mentioned you to me, saying how good you are, that he doesn't deserve you. When he was with me, he was always absent-minded, often calling the wrong name. Several times, in bed, he called out your name instead. My expression changed slightly. If what Claire said was true, then Ethan's betrayal was even more despicable. Clearly thinking of me in his heart, yet being with another woman. What is this? Playing both sides? Then why are you telling me this only now? I asked. Because I was afraid you would hate him even more. Claire said with a bitter smile, but now that he's had a car accident and might become a vegetable, I think you should know some truths. What truths? Before the car accident, he called me. Claire's tears fell. He said he's sorry to you and also to me. He said, if it weren't for his greed, neither of you would have been hurt. He also said that the thing he regrets most in his life is pursuing me while he had you. Listening to these words, my emotions were extremely complex. Finally, he said he wanted to apologize to you but didn't have the courage to face you, Claire continued, so he decided to atone in another way. What do you mean? He caused the car accident on purpose, Claire said painfully. He wanted to atone with death. I felt a wave of dizziness, almost falling off the chair. On purpose? Ethan crashed the car deliberately? Are you sure? My voice trembled slightly. I'm very sure, Claire nodded. He said it very clearly on the phone. Living would only cause more people pain, better to end it all with death. I leaned back in the chair, feeling an intense dizziness. Although I hated Ethan's betrayal very much, I never wanted him to die. I just wanted him to lose everything, to taste the cost of betrayal. But I didn't expect him to choose death as atonement. Sister Ava, I know these words are very cruel to you, Claire choked, but I think you have the right to know the truth. Although Ethan betrayed you, he never forgot you in his heart. Now that he's like this, we all bear responsibility. I was silent for a long time, finally asking, why are you telling me this? Because I want to ask you for one thing, Claire said seriously. What is it? If Ethan wakes up, please forgive him, Claire pleaded, not for me, but for your 10 years of relationship. He has already received enough punishment, and you have successfully retaliated. Let all this end here. I looked at Claire's sincere eyes, my emotions extremely complex. Forgive Ethan? To be honest, after hearing these truths, my anger has indeed diminished a lot. However, the harm has already been done, and trust has been shattered. Even if I forgive him, can we go back to the past? I need time to think, I said finally. I understand, Claire nodded. No matter what decision you make, I won't blame you. After all, Ethan and I were the ones who wronged you first. I stood up, preparing to leave. When I reached the door, I suddenly turned back and asked, your child? I aborted it, Claire said faintly. That child came at the wrong time. keeping it would only cause more people pain. I nodded, saying nothing more. Walking out of the coffee shop, I wandered aimlessly on the street. Claire's words echoed continuously in my mind, making me unable to calm down. Does Ethan really still love me? If so, then my revenge over this past month, wouldn't it be too cruel? But betrayal is betrayal, no matter the reason, it can't change that fact. Should I forgive him? I really don't know. Perhaps only when he wakes up can I make the final decision. But no matter what, the story between us is already nearing its end. Whether the outcome is reconciliation or eternal farewell, I am already prepared. Because after experiencing so much, I have become strong enough. I know that no matter what I lose, I can start over. That's enough.